The night sky split open with fire. A Learjet, plummeting, screaming, a streak of death over Philadelphia, collided with Roosevelt Mall. Metal shrieked, glass shattered. And when the fire took hold, it did not burn like normal flames. It spread too fast. It moved too deliberately. First responders fought to contain the inferno, but something was wrong. Survivors whispered of a figure walking through the blaze untouched, watching, smiling. The official report called it an accident. But those who were there, they know better. The fire was hungry, and it still is. The Roosevelt Inferno, a horror suspense story, prologue, Flight of the Damned. Captain Mark Delaney had spent a lifetime in the sky. He had felt the fury of storms that ripped open the heavens, had wrestled aircraft back from the brink of death, had seen panic spread like a disease through cabin aisles. But tonight, something felt wrong. The Learjet 55, sleek and quiet, was meant to be untouchable. It carried precious cargo, a child, small and frail, strapped into an emergency seat. They were bound for Springfield, Missouri, where the child's only chance at survival waited. Alongside Delaney and his co-pilot, Jared Whitmore, there were two medics, a nurse and a specialist. A routine flight. Until the warning lights flickered. A brief pulse. Then another. Then the altimeter wavered, as though something unseen had taken hold of it, squeezing. Jared muttered, fingers already at the controls. I know, Delaney cut in, his gut twisting. Reboot the system. Jared did. The screens blinked, went dark, then flared back to life. Everything was fine. Then the radio died. Not static, not garbled words, nothing. Jared tapped his headset. Philadelphia Tower, this is Lear 738. Do you copy? Silence. A silence that felt heavy, pressing as if the air itself had thickened. And then the plane lurched. Not turbulence, not mechanical failure. Something had gripped the aircraft and shook it. The cabin filled with screams as unsecured equipment slammed against the walls. Amelia Grayson, the flight nurse, barely had time to reach for the child before she was flung sideways. Bone met steel. She gasped, crumpling. What the hell was that? One of the medics shouted. Delaney's knuckles whitened on the yoke. The controls were dead. Losing power, he managed, his voice hoarse. The lights flickered again, spasming wildly, before everything went black. The engines choked. Then silence. Then freefall. The Learjet plunged from the sky. Chapter 1, The Descent into Hell. Time distorted, 1 second stretched into eternity. Delaney fought the controls. The city lights below blurred into a smear of color, twisting as the jet spiraled downward. Jared's voice was a raw shriek. Restarting auxiliary power. Nothing. The altimeter spun like a dying clock. Then, a blinding flash. The right wing struck a power line. Sparks cascaded through the fuselage like fireflies from hell. The smell of burning metal curled into the cabin. The wing was gone. A missile of twisted wreckage spiraled toward the black silhouette of Roosevelt Mall. Delaney yanked on the yoke, desperate. But there was no saving it. Cotman Avenue rose to meet them. The impact was deafening. Metal screeched. Pavement shattered. The jet tore through parked cars, bouncing once before slamming into the outer wall of the mall. For half a second, all was still. Then, detonation. A fireball roared into the night. The blast sucked the air from the lungs of those who stood too close. Glass windows fractured, steel melted, and in the heart of the inferno, something shifted. Chapter 2, The Mall of Shadows. The fire spread faster than it should have. It devoured. Philadelphia firefighters arrived within minutes, but their water did nothing. The flames did not sputter or recoil. They grew. Inside the mall, screams cut through the smoke. A mother clutched her child's hand, running. She was almost to the exit when the ceiling above them groaned, split, and came crashing down. A security guard heaved at a fallen beam, trying to free an elderly man trapped beneath it. But the fire was already there, creeping closer, tendrils licking at the floor like fingers reaching for flesh. And in the heart of the inferno, something moved. At first, the firefighters thought it was a survivor. A woman wrapped in soot and shadow, stepping through the flames without urgency. Not running, not burning, just walking. She tilted her head as if listening. Her eyes were empty voids. Her lips, smiling. Chapter 3, The Blackened, the news hit fast. Learjet crashes into Roosevelt Mall. Fatalities unknown. Medical plane triggers uncontrollable blaze. Survivors speak of something in the fire. Helicopters circled, their lights cutting through thick black smoke. The official death toll climbed. Investigators combed the wreckage. The black box was missing. And then there was the lighter. A white lighter, untouched. Not a single scorch mark. One of the firemen found it buried under collapsed steel. He turned it over in his trembling hands, flicked the wheel. A tiny flame sputtered to life. The others stared. No one spoke. Not until they saw the wall. A slab of soot-covered concrete, one of the last standing structures. Something had been written in the ash. A finger had traced the words, deliberate and slow. 4 words, no more. The fire was hungry. Epilogue. The echo of flames. The NTSB called it mechanical failure, an accident, a tragedy. But some of the first responders would never speak of that night. Some left the force entirely. Some avoided Roosevelt Mall's ruins altogether. And some, the unlucky few, heard things when the wind howled through the wreckage. Not voices, not sirens. Clapping. Slow, measured, like someone waiting for an encore. And sometimes, just sometimes, on the darkest nights, if you stood too close to the wreckage, if you let the silence settle around you, you could hear it. A voice, low, whispering. I'm still hungry.